It's great to be here. It's great to be in New England as a fellow New Englander. And it's great to be talking about the Directory for Catechesis, which sounds odd that anybody would be delighted about talking about a big book from the Vatican. But what I want to do tonight is kind of unpack that a little bit. So have coffee. At least I don't compete with the meal. Dessert is an easier competition. So, but what I'd like to do with you is just to highlight some of the things you need to be aware of in what the church is teaching internationally about catechesis. You don't need to take any notes because that little one sheet on at your table summarizes everything I'm going to do, and I will send David the PowerPoint that he can even send out to you, okay? So just sit back and relax, have a cup of coffee, and have at least one dessert. Okay. If you take some time with the directory, and it's hard to take time with a big book in the midst of all that you do, and it's not written, let's put it this way, it's not written for general consumption. So do not read the Directory for Catechesis before going to bed. Okay? But if you spend some time with it, you can unlock the secrets in the directory. And what you'll find in the Directory for Catechesis is a blueprint for the future of catechesis all around the world. But it doesn't give away its secrets easily, which is why we did a book to accompany it. Not to replace it, but to accompany it. So tonight what I want to do is I want to highlight some of those themes. So it's a little bit of in-service, a little bit of what's possible. It's going to affirm some of the things that you already believe and do, and it might challenge you a little bit to think about what does the future of catechesis in the next 5 or 10 years look like. Now, for us 50-plus people in the room, and there are 3 of us, we're going to entrust that to somebody else over the next 5 or 10 years. But this is the foundation upon which we build. We okay? Okay, thank you. We have technical support. All right. Here's the message in the directory. Catechesis is for everyone. All ages, all generations. People who come to Mass every Sunday and during the week, and those who grace us on Christmas, Ash Wednesday, and Easter. It's for all of them. It's for the old-timers and the newly born. It's for families at home and families on the go. So oftentimes we think about catechesis as a program as opposed to a ministry for everyone. Because catechesis is about learning and growing in faith and discipleship. And it never stops. So I love talking to older groups who say, well, we've been there and done that. And I say, tell me the day when you've mastered being a disciple. Three big words from the directory in English. We accompany, we educate, and we form. Accompaniment is one of Pope Francis's favorite words. We journey with people. And the story of accompaniment is a story at the end of Luke's gospel, the road to Emmaus. Jesus accompanies, walks alongside the 2 very disheartened disciples. Accompaniment. How do we accompany people from birth through older adulthood? How do we accompany people who are searching and inquiring? How do we accompany those who are growing and active? Accompaniment. It's relational. It's a journey. How do we educate in the Catholic faith? How do we open people to the riches of our tradition? And then lastly, how do we form? So catechesis is accompaniment, catechesis is education, and it's formation. And it's so much more than any individual program or activity. We provide experiences of a living encounter with Christ. It's all over the directory. Our task is to engage people, to set the climate for people to encounter a living Lord. Whatever age, whatever generation, that mission doesn't change. Provide experiences of living encounter with Christ. Second, catechesis is still for everybody, but it's from everybody from active believers to believers who we see occasionally, to inactive believers who we see really occasionally, and to inactive non-believers. Catechesis is more than just engaging with those who are active in their faith, active in the community, and growing. It's broader than that. So when we talk about evangelizing catechesis, what we're saying is it's for everybody. You see everybody a couple of times in the life cycle. At First Eucharist, here they all come. Few less, but at confirmation as well. So catechesis is both charismatic in the directory, which means the proclamation of the good news of Jesus Christ. But it's also mystagogical, growing deeper in that understanding and practice of the Catholic faith. We have people across this whole spectrum. The task of catechesis is to work with all of them. Just keep breathing, that's okay, all right? Because they're all of ours. They're all the people that God has given us to help learn and grow wherever they are on their faith journey. The directory is so clear. Catechesis is for everyone. And our task is to be able to adapt and accommodate the spiritual religious needs of everyone. Catechesis is a formation process. There are people here who work in initiation, right? Where's all the initiation people? I know you changed the letter. It used to be RCIA, now you're OCIA. Okay. In the directory, like the 97 directory, the baptismal catechumenate is a model of formation. Not that you replicate the OCIA in every stage. It's that you take inspiration from it. So think about what that process looks like. We proclaim the gospel. There are people in our parish who need to hear it or hear it again for the first time. They are baptism parents who have been on sabbatical for a couple of decades. They are First Eucharist parents who are coming back after baptism 7 years ago or 8 years ago. They are confirmation young people whose first Eucharist was their last. But they're also people who are actively engaged, living discipleship, serving people in need, developing a spiritual life. We proclaim the gospel to those who need to hear it for the first time or hear it again for the first time. We provide a comprehensive introduction to the Christian life and the Catholic faith for those who are at that point in their journey. The model of the catechumenate is accompaniment, walking with as people grow. If this sounds like a long way from the classroom instructional model, the directory is stretching us beyond that. The directory is stretching us beyond that to be formational, not just instructional. Be part of a community of faith and support, small communities, family communities, parish communities, age group communities, kindred communities. Engage in the mission of the church. If you're going to live out disciple, it's missionary discipleship. And grow ever deeper, which is the mystagogy. So when we're thinking about catechesis, it's a formation process. And it's ongoing. It's holistic. Directory has 5 tasks of catechesis. For some of you, you remember the 97 directory, it had 6. Missionary discipleship was so important, it became constitutive of just understanding catechesis. So there are 5. They're all interrelated. Instructional, formation, knowledge of the faith, liturgical, moral, spiritual, missional. Think that every year, all of our community needs to touch all 5 of those areas to grow holistically. Our curriculum has all of those 5 areas. So when we think about catechesis, it's far more than knowledge of the faith. And we know that. But our practice has to show that it's knowledge, liturgical formation, moral formation, spiritual, and missional. Catechesis values human experience. We can be so committed to sharing the Catholic faith that the first stop is overlooked, which is what's going on in the lives of our people. And so, life to faith to life. The directory talks about we illuminate and interpret human experience in the light of the gospel. So the concerns, the joys, the hopes, the struggles people bring to us is a content for catechesis. And we present the gospel and our Catholic tradition in response, in light, and if you will, to interpret what's happening in their life. Mm-hmm. And we utilize a variety of methods and processes. The directory goes out of its way to say we should be borrowing and learning from the research that's going on in education and learning and bringing that into catechesis. Because God is speaking through all of that. Catechesis values human experience. So those are some big themes. And if you're asking, so what? Which is a good question to ask. Here's a couple of illustrations. So once you dive into the book, and you won't see them written quite this way, there'll be, the typeface will be smaller, there'll be lots of footnotes, and there'll be quotes. But this gives you the kind of the reader's guide into it. We wrote the book, Guided by the Directory, to help people take the directory's vision and ask, so what could that look like in a parish? If we're going to move in this direction towards what I think is a more pastoral, communal approach to catechesis, more holistic, and for everyone, we now need to create models that will help us get there. Many of the models we use in parish catechesis are models that we inherited from the last century. Many of the models we use in catechesis are models that were developed in the last century. And all those who are the 50 and over crowd know exactly what I'm talking about. Because we saw this in the late 60s and 70s, the transformation of catechesis away from the blue-covered little booklet with 150 question and answers to the modern era of catechesis. But that was 50-something years ago. We now are in a new age and a new generation with very new people. Spend just 10 minutes with a middle schooler and then go to therapy. And you get a glimpse into the new world. You get a glimpse into not only the Gen Z world a little bit, but to this alpha generation world, which is brand new. How many people here are grandparents? So you get a graduate course in what's happening every time you just sit and listen to your grandkids, which I would recommend on a regular basis. in person or on FaceTime or whatever. Because what's happening there is new. So the approaches catechesis takes has to address the context and the generational cultures that we look at. And they are present in our midst. Catechesis is for everyone, but it's also for this time for everyone. So here's some suggestions. Your task, like mine, is to go from here to what are the implications for catechesis with all ages and all generations. Not tomorrow morning, over time. How do we apply that in our context, which is going to look unique in everyone's parish because your people are unique. Your context is unique. If you're a standalone parish or if you're, what's the word in the diocese for smushing parishes? Collaborative. The technical word is smushing, but collaborative sounds a lot better. So it's going to look different. It's going to look different on the cultures, the ages. Okay? So when we're thinking about catechesis, it's always happening in our context, but it's across the whole lifespan. And where it happens has broadened. You'll see that in the directory. It's at home, it's at school, it's at the parish, and it's out in the world. And when we say out in the world, I mean it's also online. So imagine, how do we address the diverse styles of faith and practice from active believers to non-believers? By thinking about those categories and asking, how do we catechize each of those different faith styles? When you read the directory, go to the chapter that starts with family on all the age groups, and then read the adult section. It starts off by describing the different faith styles and practices of adults today. And then it challenges us to say, how will you address all those people uniquely? I know you have plenty of extra time and you're looking for more work, and this is, but to think this way opens up possibilities. So start thinking about, how do I provide through catechesis taste and see experiences for those who need a refresher or who just are being acquainted with the Christian faith? Exploring and growing and going deeper experiences. Now, 20 years ago, this would have been really hard. Not today. A couple of keystrokes and magic lights up on your screen, because you now curate resources that 20 years ago you would have had to create. And it comes in all sizes and shapes, in audio and video, digital and apps. There's just an array of those. We curate and apply those resources and content to our people. So if we want to address diverse styles, you have to move away from one size fits all. Because what happens with one size fits all is people squish out the sides. Now, some of you remember programs like Renew, which was all the adults are going to go into renewal groups. That was in the last century. If you said to all the adults in your parish, you're all going to go into the same program and groups the place, what would the reaction be today? How many 20 and 30-somethings would just run to sign up? The world has changed. It doesn't mean that what we did 20 or 30 years ago didn't work. It's that today we've got to think about, who are we targeting with what? When I teach this, I talk about catechesis today as a menu of faith-forming activities and experiences. A buffet. 20 or 25 years ago, I would have had to create all those programs and activities, and I did. Not today. I can curate most of those because we have an abundance of great Catholic content in all kinds of media shapes and sizes. A menu of faith-forming experiences that address diverse needs of families in all ages and a variety of times, places, and ways to participate and to learn. You all know from experience, once you land on a particular date and time, you've excluded a whole bunch of people. And then you have to mandate that date and time with consequences that go to, offering up your firstborn child. 30 or 40 years ago, that was not a problem to do. In 2025, there are just so many other things going on in people's lives. And we have to find the niches and the cracks in which we can engage them. And it's different from family to family and from age group to age group. There's an example in the book, so that way you won't look at this and go, oh my God, what's he doing? It's in the book, and it's spelled out. But this is an example of addressing diverse faith needs in an adult catechesis program around Scripture, in this case, the Gospels. And the question isn't whether you want to teach the Gospels. The question is, how do you want to do it with whom? Okay. Not whether I want to teach the Gospels or not, or any topic. It's how and with whom and where and when. The introduction, go back to a second. Taste and see, explore, grow, going deeper. Keep that fourfold in your mind. Taste and see. What is the gospel? How do you even find them? Where are they in the Bible? What does it look like? How do they put together? So pick any one of the four. We'll take Mark, it's the shortest. What's it for? Who do you write for? How do you do it? How do you get into it? How do you read it? What's the portrait of Jesus? I've never even thought about the Gospels. In fact, I don't even think I have a Bible at home. You probably know a couple of people like that. I want to go a little deeper into the Bible. I'm interested in the Gospel. This year we're in the Gospel of Luke, so I want to go deeper into the Gospel of Luke. We can gather at church. We can now stream it live. You couldn't do that 25 years ago. In fact, you probably didn't even think about doing it, let's say, 5 years ago. We're coming up onto a terrible anniversary in March. 5 years. Record it and put it on our YouTube channel. You wouldn't have said that 10 years ago. Take what we designed here and offered, put it in a small group format. The one thing every church can start doing, which would just make it easy to do this, is start video recording all of your programs and presentations. Every year, all that you do, all that content just kind of evaporates because we don't keep it around. But if I had 4 sessions at church and we recorded those, I cannot create small groups around the same content, same people. We want to go deeper? We have a 6-session Bible study to go deeper. And if you really want to go deeper, we have an online course. Today, you don't need to design all that anymore. You can curate those, invite speakers in, and then put them onto these multiple platforms in different times, and all of a sudden, you're addressing diversity. Same program, Gospel of Luke. Multi-platform, multi-programming, same content. You took those 4 sessions that you presented at church for the 28 people you know who would come. And now you reach 200 people. Same program. Okay, the catechumenal people. So what's a catechumenal model look like? Just apply it to one sacrament. Move from an instructional model. I'll take baptism, only because usually it's like, an hour and a half and hope for the best. What if you really thought about baptism as the entry to the whole process? By the way, which it is. Parents come from a variety of different viewpoints. Some are active believers, and some have left this behind, but grandma and grandpa are still alive. They come into the preparation, and then we say, it's only, you fill in how many hours, so as to not have an obstacle, as opposed to welcome as an invitation to grow. Make it formational. It's not a checkbox. It's a formation opportunity. So catechesis tailored to the life journey. Some will need what? Welcome to the Christian faith. It's been a while. Some will need, well, my wife is Catholic, or mom's Catholic. Dad is not so much of anything. So he might need an introduction to the Christian life. So we can personalize it. And baptism is a great place to start because usually with an individual family or a couple of families at a time. It's a great place to pilot it. Because once you've learned how to do it in baptism, then you take it to the next sacrament, which is Eucharist. Same parents that you had 7 years ago. So if you don't like what happened 7 years ago, how about a mentor or guide for every one of those parents? You have a church filled with them. They're called grandparents. To walk with them, to accompany them, which is catechesis, from birth to the start of school or the first Eucharist. To accompany them to Mass on Sunday, et cetera, et cetera. We have all the assets and resources to do this. This is a vision piece. And the director is saying, this is the model for all catechesis. Baptismal catechumenate is the model for all sacramental prep, but catechesis in general. And then we'll celebrate that, and we'll welcome them into the parish community. And then, I picked on baptism because I love this example. Every 6 months, you'll see and hear from us because you'll get a note that says, your baby is now 6 months old, and here's the big Bible story for this month. Here's how to start prayer. All the things that happen. Some of you are old enough to remember Parent Pages. It's an old print resource. I think it was our Sunday Visitor, so I forget who did it. You bought a kit, came in a big envelope. There were 6 of them. 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24, 30, 36. And all you had to do was put it in the mail because you knew when they were born. Do the math. The goal was what? To stay with those parents in the time when they're not with us. We want to be with them. What if you helped every family start out right? What if you picked up every parent wherever they were in their faith journey and said, our mission catechetically is to accompany you. That's the potential of thinking catechumenally about baptism. You could then take exactly the same model, bring it to First Eucharist, and by the time you get to confirmation, personalize it for the young person. It's all in the directory. By the way, it was there in 97. Okay. Comprehensive catechesis. A while back, I had a chance to read, a diocese made the mistake of sending me a draft of their catechetical guidelines. Never a good idea to send it to me, right? Because they read, like, can you take a look at this? Do you want like a review, or you want me to just take a look? Oh, we'd like your comments. Okay. 124 pages long. Preschool, grade 1, grade 2, you know exactly what it's going to come, right? And then of the 126 pages, whatever it was, 120 got you to 12th grade. And there were 6 pages for adults. Think about that for a second. 80 years of the life cycle, got 6 pages. 18 years of the life cycle, not even 18, got 120. And I read through it, and guess which of those slices of the pie got the most attention? Yeah, you guessed it, knowledge of the faith. Doctrinal instruction. So I wrote back and said, The 97 Directory for Catechesis, this was a while back, says that there are 5, 6 interrelated tasks, and all curriculum and faith formation should embody that. Didn't get a response back to that. Saw the final product, and guess what it was? 126 pages. And the point is, that was a while back, we were locked into a model. The directory, 97 and 2020, points to a more comprehensive, what if every year in our curriculum, children, teens, adults, families grew in their understanding of our faith, were prepared to celebrate our liturgical Mass, liturgical year, were formed morally in age-appropriate ways, were helped to grow spiritually and in their own prayer life, and were engaged in missional formation to go out in the community and out in the world and serve others. What if every year people had experiences in all 5 of those areas? That's what the directory is suggesting. Not even suggesting. I think by repeating it twice, emphasizing that curriculum and formation is meant to be 5 interrelated tasks, broad, comprehensive. This is how we grow in faith. And the interesting thing is, what precedes this chapter or paragraph in the directory is a description of how Jesus formed the disciples. Same thing. It's 2,000 years old. Family catechesis. For those who've been around for a little bit, family catechesis kind of has ebbs and flows in the life of the church. So if you're around in the 1980s, it was kind of a, and then it kind of, and then it came back in the early 2000s. But it's making a resurgence in a way that I think people now recognize after 20 years of research and studies and promotion that parents and families are the most important factor in faith formation, period. There isn't anything else even close. And so more and more parishes are moving to family catechesis models, not in opposition to children's or youth models, but to provide a broader, more community-based formation. And the directory is really clear. So when you get to the age group section, I think it's chapter 6, always read a Roman document by where the chapter or the document starts, because that always tells you the most important thing. The chapter on age group starts with family. And it's the longest section of the chapter on age groups. That's a hint to what they were thinking when they wrote it. They talk about family catechesis in 3 ways. In the family, focusing on parents nurturing faith, with the family, meaning with the parish community, and of the family, parents and families sharing faith with other families and parents, which is what great family catechesis models do. Parents share faith with other parents, families share faith with other families, they're engaged in service and learning and praying and celebrating together. In, with, and of. So we're talking about the movement, like where's the movement catechetically across the country? It's towards more family-based or family-centered models of catechesis. It's really, really clear. And people thinking about how do we grow and develop in a continuous, seamless way from birth and baptism through graduation from high school. In an era in which you could rely on families and extended families to provide the seamless continuity in faith growth and faith participation. You didn't have to worry about being seamless and continuous in the parish. The change in the context is that's no longer true widespread. And so we have to be much more intentional about saying, when you start at baptism, how are we going to walk with people for 2 decades? Not that a parish is going to make that transition overnight, but as you put the building blocks in place, we had to provide this socialization, formation system that we used to take for granted because we had grandma and grandpa living in our house. We had to be intentional about it today. And the directory is very explicit. The things we used to take for granted, we now have to be intentional about it. And especially in the U.S., when ethnic culture was such a powerful force in sharing faith across generations. And then we built ethnic parishes around ethnic families. In 2025, it's still true, families are the center, but now we have to be intentional in building faith formation around them. So the ebbs and flows from young children to older children to young adolescents to older adolescents. And you can't start too young. If you are simply sick and tired of having to teach the Our Father to First Eucharist children, it means you didn't start early enough. Because if children can watch a Disney movie and memorize the songs and the script in 3 viewings, they can certainly do the Our Father at home with our support and encouragement. You could add that to a whole list of faith practices, right? So, continuous and seamless formation at home and parish for parents, children, adolescents, the entire family. I think this is where the directory is really clear about how important it is, but I think in the U.S. church, we're recognizing the limitations of only doing catechesis with individuals and not with the whole family and community. What we used to take for granted, you can't anymore. You have to build an intentional system for faith forming. That's what this is getting at. Too much words. You have it on the slide. You have another word. And then lastly, imagine using the best educational research we have to really make our catechetical programming with age groups and children just come alive. You see that, how many parishes here do Vacation Bible School? So every year for about a week, you immerse yourself into ways that children learn best. It's called Vacation Bible School. And then so many parishes in September go back to a book, having bypassed all that they learned for that week in the summer. I'm not suggesting during the year you have to do Vacation Bible School every week, God forbid. But I am suggesting that we need to pay attention in the broader society and among educators across the country of what educational research and practice is telling us about the best way to engage 2 new generations that you were not ready for. Gen Z, who's now teenagers and into the early young adult years, and the alpha kids who got stuck with a name because we ran out of alphabet letters. So we had to go back to A. Who are going to be learning differently, experiencing differently. Any parent who's had to deal with you can't have a phone until you're at least 6 years old, I don't mean that literally, problem, knows exactly what I'm talking about. So watching the best educators adapt and tailor their methods to a different generation of learners. In a parish, you have 6 generations of learners. 6. And they all learn differently. But we have so much great research on how to help them learn. But you know what every methodology has in common? It ensures that the learners are at the center of the learning experience. Not the content, not the book. The learners are at the center of the experience, and that everything is designed around them and how they learn best. Whether you're 90 or whether you're 5. The learner at the center, and we fashion faith formation and catechesis around you and how to help you learn and grow best. Jesus' whole approach to teaching was based on that one principle. He had farming imagery. He had an very interesting selection of the people imagery, which he just used everything that was right in front of him. But he put the person always at the center. if you've been following the last couple of weeks of Mark's Gospel's daily reading, the one that always strikes me is when Jesus will come up to somebody who's obviously a withered hand or crippled and rest. What can I do for you? And I love the one response, if you will cure me. And he says, I choose to do that. But it's always built around what? The person at the center. If you ensure that learners are the center, everything I just talked about makes sense. Everything is designed around them and how they learn best. In one sentence, that's what educational research has found. All the methods and the rest, just put that in practice. If you spend a little time with the directory, well, you spend a lot of time with the directory, but a little time, just dig into the chapter 6 on the age groups. What you'll find is all kinds of clues for what you're doing right now that it can be affirmed by the directory, and the challenge of how we can grow over time, over the next couple of years, into a deeper practice that embodies the themes of the directory. It's one of those rare books that when you look at it, you say, oh no, I'll never read this. And then when you dig into it, you find the clues and the insights and the wisdom of the church about catechesis. And this is what the church is saying all around the world. We wrote Guided by the Directory as a way for you to kind of enter into the directory and to tease out some of these strategies and ideas. Start anywhere with those insights as you work and develop catechetical programming. NCCL has a wonderful website called ncclcatholic.org. Surprise, surprise. Accompanying the book, there are practice resources, reproducible ones. I'm going to forget which one, under Informs. Just click on that and you'll see Guided by the Directory, and they're downloadable and they're free. They go along with the book. They're just not in the book because they would double the size of the book, and we would never get the book published. So they're reproducible, easy to download. ncclcatholic.org. If you like, sign up for the newsletter. It tells you kind of every week I send out a newsletter, tells you what we're doing, keeps you kind of abreast of what's going on. There are resources and things that are happening. For all the people in the room who are lay people, NCCL is partnering with the National Association for Lay Ministry on a national survey on lay ministry in the Catholic Church. So we invite you to fill that out. It'll be on the NCCL Catholic website tomorrow. But you can go to NALM, National Association of Lay Ministry. The links are there for the survey. It's a national survey. We hope to get 10,000 responses. So add your voice to that. And then it'll be published, so you have access to that as well. ncclcatholic.org. Join the mailing list. I think you'll like what we do. It's our job, our mission, proclaim the gospel and the tradition in new ways and exciting ways, and serve parish and diocesan catechetical leaders. That's what we do. For the last 2.5 years, I've been serving as executive director, something I never imagined doing in my 55 decades worth of work in catechetical ministry. So congratulations to everybody who received an award, and all of you for doing this wonderful ministry of catechesis and learning. It's so essential to what we do. Just keep at that. Faithful witnesses. Congratulations to everybody tonight. Thanks.